In 2 centuries, a muddy swamp in central Mexico transformed into one of the largest, most densely populated cities on Earth. The people who built it did not arrive as conquerors. Around the year 1100, the ancestors of the Aztecs, the Mexica, were a nomadic tribe of hunter-gatherers migrating south from a semi-mythical homeland called Aztlan, searching for a place to settle. According to their histories, their patron deity of war, Huitzilopochtli, decreed they should stop wandering only when they saw an eagle perched on a cactus devouring a snake. In 1325, they witnessed this exact omen, but the location was less than ideal, a marshy, unpromising island in the middle of Lake Texcoco. Surrounded by hostile neighbors and lacking basic raw materials like stone and timber, the Mexica had no choice. To survive their island exile, they had to engineer a new environment from the mud up. To solve their lack of farmland, Aztec engineers developed the Chinampa system. They constructed rectangular enclosures by weaving reeds together, anchoring them to the shallow lake bed with willow stakes, and packing the frames with layers of nutrient-rich lake mud and decaying organic matter. These artificial raised beds were naturally irrigated by the surrounding lake water. The soil was incredibly fertile, allowing farmers to harvest crops like maize, beans, and squash up to 7 times a year. With their food supply secured, the engineers scaled up. They built a 16-kilometer dike to control flooding and keep the lake's saltwater away from their freshwater supply, and constructed dual-pipe terracotta aqueducts to transport clean drinking water from mainland springs directly into the city. The result was Tenochtitlan. What started as a settlement of reed huts became a glittering, symmetrically planned urban metropolis, interlaced with canals and home to more than 200,000 citizens. The Mexica took a patch of unusable swampland and designed an impenetrable aquatic fortress. With their base secured, they were positioned to project power outward across Mesoamerica. In 1428, the Mexica broke free from the dominant regional power, the Tepanecs. They formed a military and political coalition with 2 neighboring city-states, Texcoco and Tlacopan. This triple alliance crushed their former overlords and officially launched the Aztec Empire. Instead of occupying conquered territories with standing armies, the alliance operated through hegemonic control. They left local leaders in power, demanding absolute political submission and massive semi-annual tribute payments of goods like woven cloth, cacao beans, and gold. Enforcing this tribute system required a fiercely disciplined military. Aztec warriors wielded a signature weapon called the macuatl, a heavy hardwood club edged with obsidian shards, so sharp they were capable of delivering deeply traumatic wounds in close-quarters combat. But as the empire expanded, their battlefield objectives shifted. In highly coordinated engagements known as flower wars, Aztec forces prioritized capturing enemy combatants alive rather than striking lethal blows. Aztec warfare functioned as a highly organized collection system. It secured the raw materials needed to sustain the immense population of Tenochtitlan, and it supplied a steady stream of human captives required by the state religion. By the early 16th century, under the rule of Montezuma II, the empire was a highly structured society. The capital featured bustling, regulated markets, strict social hierarchies, and comprehensive legal codes. Beneath this civic order lay a profound existential dread. Aztec philosophy held that the current world was the 5th cosmic age. According to their mythology, recorded in monuments like the Sunstone seen here, the universe had already been created and completely destroyed 4 times before. To prevent a 5th apocalypse, the gods required nourishment. The state believed that human sacrifice, offering the blood and hearts of captured warriors, was a cosmic necessity. It was a debt paid to keep the sun moving across the sky and preserve the cycle of life. With every male trained for battle from childhood and social advancement tied to taking captives, the military became the ultimate tool for this cosmic preservation. However, this same theological requirement, to capture rather than kill, would become a fatal disadvantage against an enemy fighting for total destruction. Hernán Cortés and his Spanish expedition arrived on the Gulf Coast in 1519. Believing he could manage the newcomers through diplomacy, Montezuma II allowed the heavily armed conquistadors to walk straight into his island fortress. The diplomatic gamble failed. The Spanish massacred Aztec nobles during a religious festival, and Moctezuma was killed in the ensuing chaos. The Aztecs violently expelled the Spanish forces from Tenochtitlan during a massive, bloody retreat known as the Night of Sorrows. But the Spanish left behind an invisible weapon. A smallpox epidemic swept through the densely packed city, rapidly decimating the population and crippling the empire's ability to defend itself. Cortés returned in 1521. Cut off from mainland supplies, Tenochtitlan endured a brutal 80-day siege. Alongside thousands of indigenous warriors eager to overthrow their Aztec overlords, the Spanish systematically starved the inhabitants and leveled the jewel of Mesoamerica. The fall of the empire was driven by the combined force of a smallpox epidemic and the thousands of indigenous allies who joined the Spanish to dismantle their former oppressors. In the aftermath, the conquistadors sought to erase the imperial capital from the map. They dismantled the grand pyramids and temples, using the quarried stone to construct the buildings of a new Spanish viceroyalty. The colonial world was built directly on top of the old one. Massive civic structures, like the Metropolitan Cathedral, were designed and positioned to assert absolute cultural and religious dominance over the surviving indigenous population. Yet the foundations of the Aztec Empire could not be completely buried. Today, the excavated stone ruins of the Templo Mayor sit fully exposed, directly adjacent to the colonial skyline. The Aztec state was violently dismantled, but its physical and cultural footprint survived. Those ancient foundations remain the bedrock of modern Mexico City, a permanent anchor in the geography of the nation.